Hi, everybody, and welcome to this video for the college. Hi, everybody, and welcome to this video for the Glenbard East College Planning Night. My name is Scott Lilly. I'm one of the counselors here in the Glenbard East School. Hi, everybody, and welcome to this edition of the Glenbard East College Planning Night. My name is Scott Lilly, and I'm here to share with you some information about the state colleges of Illinois. So let's go ahead and begin. So why do we include this in our presentations? Well, this is a list of the top 20 destinations where students have been applying over the past 5 years. And as you can see in the top 6, you could find 4 of our state public universities ranked up there, as well as after that, we see soon after the top 20, there's Western Illinois at number 29, Southern Illinois at 30, and Eastern Illinois at 34. So we know that this is an option that a lot of our families are considering. Why? Because we know that public schools in our state can oftentimes be the most affordable options. So our idea today is to give you a quick comparison of the different schools within the state of Illinois, and also give you some other options as financial. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us for this edition of the Glenbard East College Planning Night. My name is Scott Lilly. I'm one of the counselors here in the school counseling office at Glenbard East High School. And today we're going to talk about the state colleges of Illinois. We know that a lot of families are looking for good financial options when it comes to their college choices. And we know that a lot of families are looking for we know that finances are a very important part of the college app. We know that finances can be a very important part of the college selection process, and you know that your tax dollars help contribute to the cost of our state. We know that finances are a very important part of the college selection process, and your tax dollars have helped pay for our public schools in Illinois. So let's take a look at some of the options that might be a little bit more affordable for you being a resident of Illinois. So why do we do this presentation? Well, we've seen over the past few years. So why do we do this presentation? Well, we've been watching our data for the past few years, and we know that within so why do we do this presentation? Well, we've been watching our data over the past few years, and as you can see, the public schools of Illinois are in our top. As you can see, when it comes to our top 20 schools that students select, within the top 6, there are 4 of our state public universities. Not only that, but just outside the top 20, you'll find 3 more in the next 15. So as you can see, we know that our So as you can see, we know that our families are looking at the public schools in Illinois as a way to. So as you can see, we know that our families are looking at the public schools in Illinois. So we want to take an opportunity. So as you can see, we know that families at Glenbard East are interested in our public school. So as you can see, we know that families are interested. So as you can see, our data shows that families are interested in the public school options within the state of Illinois. So we want to take a moment today to help break down the differences in some. So we want to take a moment today to help break down what makes these schools different from each other and where you might want to. So we want to take a moment today to help you understand the differences available at these different universities and ways you may want to investigate which options might be the best for you. So in the state of Illinois, there are actually 12 public universities. You'll see I have half of them listed here. We'll have the other half in the next slide. You'll see they're listed by their name, but when we get into some of the graphs later on, they will be abbreviated using the. When we get into the. When we get to the data. But when we get to the data later on, you'll see the abbreviations represented there on the right. So here are the first 6 listed in alphabetical order: Chicago State University, Eastern Illinois, Governor State University, Illinois State University, Northeastern Illinois University, and Northern Illinois University. Your other 6 are here. We have 2 Southern Illinois universities. They're completely separate campuses, one in Carbondale, one in Edwardsville. We have 3 completely separate University of Illinois. We have three completely separate we have three completely separate institutions named the University of Illinois, one located in Chicago, often called UIC. The most common one that people refer to as U of I is the one in Urbana-Champaign, and the less known one is the University of Illinois located in Springfield. Finally, we also have Western Illinois University that is primarily located in Macomb, but they also have a second campus located in the Quad Cities. I also wanted to point out that as I mentioned, those are the 12 public schools in Illinois, but I also wanted to point out that sometimes there are other schools that sound like they might be public schools because they might have a direction in their name or they might have the word Illinois in it. However, those schools are not. So you'll see some examples on the bottom there, such as Northwestern, North Central College, Illinois College, and the University of Chicago. Though those might sound like public institutions in Illinois, they are actually private institutions. Therefore, their funding works quite differently than what we're about to talk about today. Therefore, their funding works quite differently from the schools we're talking about today. Just to give you a general sense, here's a map of where all these schools are located in the state. Again, you can see I indicated Glenbard East there kind of in the middle of the top to give you an idea of the proximity of each of these schools from where we are at Glenbard East. All right, so the first graph here shows you the comparison of enrollment. So the first graph here shows the comparison in enrollment. In other words, So the first graph here shows the comparison of enrollment. In other words, how does the size of each of these campuses compare to one another? As you may have expected, the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign is by far the largest campus. The blue part of the chart represents the enrollment. The blue part of the chart represents the undergraduate enrollment. That's typically what we think of when it comes to students coming out of high school and getting their first degree. That would be undergraduate enrollment. Whereas graduate and doctoral enrollment, those students might be already working in their field and maybe are not full-time students and maybe are more commuting to campus. So as you might have expected, the University of Illinois is our largest. University of Illinois Chicago being the second largest, Illinois State the third, and then you can see after that they kind of level off. Here's a comparison of the average GPA for admitted students. This is important to look at in order to understand the rigor it takes to be admitted to these different schools. Again, you probably should have expected U of I being the highest one. Illinois State comes in second. Closely behind them is UIC and Northern Illinois University. Now, I want to caution you that these are simply just averages. So there are definitely students that get admitted above and below these numbers. I also want to point out that at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, you apply by major. So there's great variation based on what it takes to get in that school. For example, if you're trying to apply to be a computer science major, you might need to have a 4.6 GPA. Whereas if you're applying for the School of Social Work, your GPA can often be much lower because their admission standards are much lower in that area. So this is an overall university average, but there is some variation that happens within that. In addition, here's the average SAT scores for admitted students that reported that score. And I bring that up right now. We are still living in the world of test optional, meaning students can choose to apply and give an SAT or ACT score or not give that information. The school will then evaluate the student based on the other information that is supplied. As a matter of fact, according to the governor, this has to continue for at least this admission cycle. We're not sure what this is going to look like in the future, but a lot of the schools are currently using test optional processes. They like that process and want to keep that process. So expect that to continue. As a result, expect these numbers to go up because students with low SAT scores will no longer report theirs, but students with high SATs will continue to report theirs in order to try and gain admission using that tool. So therefore, over time, I expect these averages to increase. But again, students are above and below these numbers, and this is an optional choice. So if you find your numbers are below these numbers, then you are welcome to apply using test optional and hope to be admitted based on your other credentials. Of course, we were talking today about finances, so we want to also give you a comparison of how much it costs to go to schools. What's interesting about this is schools will report different metrics. So some of them are transparent and will show you what it costs for their tuition room and board, and additional fees on top of that. Some schools don't mention that stuff right off the bat, and it does add to the expense. But this should give you a general sense of where the costs land for each of these schools. And as you would expect, the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, again, the most expensive in the state, as well as UIC. And you got to think, because UIC is located in the city, therefore it is much more expensive. A lot of our families choose UIC. A lot of our families that choose UIC then make a decision as to whether they are going to live on campus or possibly commute by taking the Metro train in every day. Either one is a wonderful decision. It's up to your family and what your values are, but UIC provides that flexibility of having that choice. After that, you'd see things kind of level off, with Illinois State University being the next more expensive, and Carbondale also being a little bit more expensive than some of the other options in the state. So that kind of gives you a breakdown of the differences between the different. So that gives you a bit of a breakdown of the differences between the schools. Now what we're going to look at is a couple other cost-saving measures you may want to consider that will. So that kind of gives you a little bit of a breakdown of the different. So that gives you a very quick breakdown of our 12 options in the state of Illinois and how they compare. But I also want to give you some tips of some other cost-saving measures that can help you keep the overall cost of college down. For example, if your student is interested in going into engineering and maybe they're not eligible to be admitted to the University of Illinois program as an incoming freshman, or maybe you want to save some money on it, you have a great option right here at the College of DuPage. They have a partnership with the University of Illinois, and that allows students to complete a certain set of courses. And if they maintain a 3.3 GPA, they are automatically admitted to the University of Illinois in engineering, which is, if you've been following if you know anybody who's been applying to that program for years, you know it's very difficult to be admitted. So this is a nice pathway directly into that program without having to meet those freshman standards. One cautionary tale, though, if you are interested in chemical engineering, that program does not qualify under the Pathways program because it's actually housed in a different college at the University of Illinois campus, not in the College of Engineering. So so just be aware of that situation being unique, but all other engineering programs do qualify for this program through the College of DuPage. COD also features something called 3+1 programs. So many of you have heard the rumor that COD is going to become a four-year college. It is not. That rumor's been around since I was in high school. However, they have added opportunities to earn your entire bachelor's degree while being on the College of DuPage campus. Here's how this works. There's only a select number of degrees and a select number of institutions that partner with COD on this. But what happens with this program is, for 3 years, you are enrolled as a COD student and thus paying the COD price. In the fourth year, the partner institution sends a teacher over to teach you and the other students in your cohort your remaining classes. And at the end, you earn the 4-year degree from the partner institution. And it looks like you spent 4 years there, but you paid the COD price for 3 of those years. So here's how this works. COD has a partnership with So here's how this works. COD is partnered with 7 different universities in the area. And what happens is you spend all 4 years on the College of DuPage campus. For the first 3 years, you pay the COD price. And in the 4th year, that partner institution will send professors over to COD to teach you and your classmates in your cohort for that final classes in that degree. At the end of it, you get the degree from that 4-year institution, but for 3 years, you only paid the COD price. It's a great deal. Everybody wins. Unfortunately, there's only a limited number of programs offering it, so you may want to look into this option to see if maybe you would qualify. So you may want to look in this option to see if the degree you're seeking is one of those options that they. So you may want to look in this option to see if they have your degree available through this program. Also be advised that the state has an AP policy. Also want to let you know that back in the days of Governor Rauner, he did sign into policy that all state schools must. Also wanted to make you aware that back in the days of Governor Rauner, he did sign a law that required that all state schools must accept a 3 or higher on all AP exams. Here's the only drawback on this. Here's the only piece of advice I'd give you on this. Here's the one piece I'd give you a heads up on this piece. Okay. The one area I'd give you a heads up on this item is that the one note of caution on this item is that not all the one note of item I want to point out about this piece is that not all schools honor. The one item of note on this piece is that not all schools will honor that specific exam for that specific area. For example, the University of Illinois, they might accept your 3 on a calculus test, but still make you take that calculus class when you get there, and they simply give you elective credit for that AP calculus exam. So this is a great way to save some money in the overall college process. Just don't make assumptions that it's going to allow you to necessarily skip a class that you don't necessarily want to take at the collegiate level. Finally, I have a couple other affordable options I want to mention that are kind of a little bit out of the box. So what we're seeing is right now, specifically in the states of Michigan and Wisconsin, they have very low enrollment at some of their non-flagship schools. So flagship schools are the schools with the big names that everybody knows nationally, and therefore students will go to from all over the country. So for example, the University of Wisconsin-Madison, University of Michigan, and Michigan State University, those are national brands that students will go to from all over the country. They're going to charge you typical out-of-state rates. However, there are dozens of other great schools in those two states that will offer you a high quality education at an in-state rate, even though you live in Illinois. So take a good look at some of the other schools in Wisconsin. So take a good look at some of the other schools in Wisconsin and in Michigan. In Michigan, it's like Illinois, where they have different directional names assigned to them. So Western Michigan University, Central Michigan University, Eastern Michigan. I also recommend Grand Valley State University, Northern Michigan. Those are all great places that are going to offer you close to in-state rates from being from Illinois. In Wisconsin, they do things a little bit different. All of their schools are named the University of Wisconsin and then the city in which they're located in. So again, Madison is still going to be very expensive, but other places like Whitewater and Parkside and Milwaukee and Platteville, they're all going to offer you very affordable rates, sometimes even comparable to what we would get in state. So if you like the affordability of Illinois public schools, but you want to expand your horizons a little bit more, take a look up north a little bit at those two states. In addition, you can get a very similar cost break at other schools that are looking to recruit specifically in Chicagoland. Western Kentucky, University of Louisville, University of Akron are just 3 that have historically been searching. Western Kentucky, University of Louisville, University of Akron are just 3 of schools that historically have been trying to recruit the Chicagoland area and often offer good rates there. Like I said, flagship public schools are going to get a national draw. So other states with, like I said, flagship public schools are going to get a national draw. So you may want to look at other states and look at their non-flagship publics, the lesser known schools that are in that state. A lot of times I get the question of, well, how do we become a resident of a state? Then we can get in-state tuition. This varies state to state. For example, schools like Missouri and Utah, they actually have it on their website. They'll kind of walk you through how to do that. They make it very easy for you to become a resident and therefore get the resident tuition rate after your freshman year. Other schools like the University of Iowa, they make it very difficult. So you have to enroll in less than half. You have to be enrolled as less than a half-time student. You have to work full-time. You have to get a driver's license. Lots of different steps there. They make it challenging. I also get this question every once in a while too. Like, we have a cabin in Wisconsin. Does that mean we get in-state rates? Unfortunately, no, that does not mean you get in-state rates. It has to do with where you primarily file taxes. And don't forget, when we go to send your students' records to their school, it is going to indicate that they attended Glenbard. And don't forget that when we go to send your students' records to their school, it is going to indicate that they graduated from Lombard East High School. So if you're trying to say that you live in this cabin in Michigan, but your kid goes to school in Lombard every day, you're going to raise a red flag. Finally, if you want to look at Missouri, 2 great schools down there, Missouri State and Truman State University, often have offered very low rates, period. Whether you're getting an in-state rate or out-of-state rate, there's no difference there. Also want to mention that Missouri State and Truman State are other good options in the state of Missouri, offering very affordable rates for them as well. And then finally, financial aid. And then finally, don't be totally scared off by the prices of private schools. And finally, don't be totally scared off by the prices of private schools. Their money is private, so they are able to do what they want with it. And so oftentimes they use that money then to, so oftentimes they use that money to, so oftentimes they use that money to entice students to come to their school by lowering their cost rate. So you still want to investigate your options when it comes to private schools. So you still want to investigate your options when it comes to private schools. Take some time to watch our videos on financial aid so you get a better understanding of how that process works. But yes, they do start with very scary numbers at the very beginning, but those numbers can come down significantly and make them competitive with these schools that we talked about today once all the financial aid does kick in. So I just want to thank you all for taking the time to watch this video. I hope you found it was helpful. And of course, if you have any kind of follow-up questions, feel free to contact myself or your student's assigned counselor. We're here to help. Let us know what we can do to help you out. And again, thanks for taking your time today. So let's do a quick rundown of the schools you see on your screen. First off, Chicago State University, Governor State University, and Northeastern Illinois University. Those are all located within the city limits of Chicago and primarily serve the residents of Chicago. So you won't hear a lot of our students talk about those because their residency options at those schools are very limited. They do, each of those schools does offer housing, but they offer a very limited amount. So most students live at home and commute to those schools. Specifically, Governor State University, which is primarily what we call an upper level institution, meaning most students complete their associate's degree at a community college and then eventually transfer there for the last 2 years of their bachelor's degree. They do run a very small cohort of students that run 4 years there, but again, it's very limited there. Whereas Eastern Illinois University, Illinois State, and Northern Illinois University, those are all traditional campuses in which students can choose to live on campus, or in the case of Northern Illinois University, live at home and commute there each day. In addition, we have these 6 schools. There are actually 2 schools named Southern Illinois University. We actually have 2 schools named Southern Illinois University. One is located in Carbondale. That's the one that most people are familiar with as being the Southern Illinois University. But there's a second one located in Edwardsville, which is just outside of St. Louis, and has really seen the most amount of growth over the past 20 years or so. In addition, we have 3 schools that are all named the University of Illinois. When people say the U of I, they're typically talking about the one at Urbana-Champaign, but we also see a lot of our families show interest in UIC, the University of Illinois in Chicago. The third one, in the lesser known one, is the University of Illinois at Springfield. Again, it services a lot of families that live around the Springfield area and students commute there. But if you are looking to get into political science, it's an outstanding option for you as well. Finally, we also have Western Illinois University. Western actually has 2 campuses now. They have one traditionally based in Macomb, and now they've recently added one in the Quad Cities area where they house the majority of their engineering programs.